Boo and raise a hullabaloo at the ball game today.
Hey everybody, it's me, Rick Acosta, the Dodger Card Collector, coming to you with another video. Today is Friday afternoon, April 18th, and it's been a few weeks. I think it's been around 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks since I've made my last video. Let's just dive into what I've been up to, just because I haven't been making YouTube videos. I have been on YouTube the last week or so watching videos, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But went through a period there where kind of took a break from YouTube, not a break from collecting as much, because I don't know if I'm ever really on a break from collecting. But it got to the point where I made a video, my last video I made, and then literally I stopped watching YouTube for a bit. In fact, I haven't even commented on people who are kind enough to comment, so I'm hoping to do that after I finish this video, as I'm hopefully back in the swing of things. But yes, I took some time off, and I noticed I needed a break even from collecting, because I noticed I was having cards arrive in the mail and I was just putting them on my desk and walking away and not doing anything with them. When I say not doing anything with them, one of the things that I love most about collecting is curating my collection. And I wasn't doing that. I was just leaving them on the desk, as opposed to adding them to my PSA card inventory and my VCP website, and adding them to my Excel spreadsheet. And if the cards don't go in binders, they get penny sleeves and top loaders and put in one of my display cases, and that just wasn't happening. So, and that's okay. And I want to let you guys know it's okay to take a break. It could be a 2-week break, a 1-week break, a 1-year break. You never know. But don't let that discourage you if you're in one of those moods and like, I don't want to collect anymore, or everybody has nicer cards than I do. No, they don't. just take your breaks, relax, and think about other things. And that is one thing I have been doing. I have some house projects that have been going on the past few weeks, which are all good. I always say my house is very important to me, and I always say a nice house makes for a nice baseball card collection. For some reason, I really believe in that. Had some health things go on, good health things, don't worry. It's just the typical things you do when you're 50, 55, 60 years old that you have to do. But got a good, clean bill of health from the doctors, so I'm happy there. I do have a new house project that I've been working on the past 2 or 3 weeks, which I hope to share with you in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're not ready yet, but it's all good. It's all good, you guys. But I've missed you guys, and I really realized I missed you guys because I went to a card show last week. It's my first card show since the Burbank show, so it had been a couple of months. Before I get into that, I am going to talk to you. Since this is on Friday, for my LA peeps, my SoCal peeps, there are 2 shows this weekend. On Saturday, I might head to one of them. The one I know I'm pretty sure I won't be heading to is the one tomorrow, Saturday, April 19th, at the Intuit Dome, where the Clippers play, across the street from SoFi Stadium. There is a card show there, free parking, $10 admission. I've never been to this show, so if you end up going to the show, let me know what you think. I'm probably going to skip on that one. The one that I might be attending, because it's on the way to my mother's house, is the Regional. The Regional does several shows. They do Brea, Garden Grove, just to name a few. They are having a show at the Doubletree Hilton in Whittier. What's that called? Uptown Whittier. So there's going to be a show there, free admission. I don't know if there's free parking, but there's plenty of street parking in that area, folks. So I might head up there on Saturday just to check things out. But last Saturday, I went to, as I mentioned to you in a moment, I went to my first card show in a while. I had been watching, one of the other reasons I held off for a week to do a video is I wanted to check out all the wonderful videos from those guys who went out to Strongsville last week. And there were some amazing pickups. My friend Steve, Vintage on Vintage, you have to watch his video just because of the cards he picked up. He and I collect similarly, and every card he picked up, I just sat there shaking my head, smiling, going, that's a great card. But Orlando had some great videos, a lot of other really good videos of people. One of the things I really appreciated between Orlando, Greg, Midlife Crisis, or Midlife, I said Midlife Crisis, Midlife Cards, and Tony, Southern Collector, Orlando, I mentioned. They did a lot of good videos just on the cards. And it really shows you the differences or the amazing quantity of cards they have at these card shows on the East Coast. And we got to see a lot of good cards in those videos. So you have to check out their collections, the cards they showed off, because I saw a lot of, you get your typical pre-war and vintage, all engraded cards. And then you get your people like me who like to build sets, and there's guys out there with binders full of cards. Those are the kinds of, those are the things I like to see. Now, you've heard me talk about this, and when it comes to the wonderful cards you saw this past week in Strongsville. Smallville was a television show. Strongville. And you get to see that, and you go, wow, that's just amazing. And yeah, you might want to think about flying out there, but some of us, me this year, I don't want to fly out to Ohio in April. Busy at work. So, but it was neat to watch those videos. But as I mentioned to you, then we talk about being a collector in California, and I watched a couple of videos in the past few days, and just a comment that my friend Mike, the sports history collector, made to me last week. When I went to the show, what's the show I went to? On April 12th, I went to the Super Show, brought to you by Next Generation Sports in the City of Industry at the Pacific Palms Resort. When you go to a show out in California, even if it's something as good as Burbank that has several hundred tables, you see a lot of Pokemon, a lot of modern, and then you have your mixture of vintage, which is wonderful. The Strongsville show was like, I think somebody made a reference that it was 95% vintage. You would never see that out here, which makes me jealous, but oh well. But one of the things that I learned, I was watching Tony, Southern Collector, today actually. He was interviewing Greg from Midlife Cards, and Greg made this remark that is so true if you live out here in California. Greg made the remark, I'm going to quote him, hopefully I did it right here. Greg lived on the island of California, and as a card collector, I couldn't agree more, on the island of California. Because out here, while we do have shows, and especially since COVID, we had no shows before COVID. When COVID ended, we started seeing some little tiny shows and some regional shows, and then Long Beach kicked back into gear. Burbank all of a sudden showed up, not only with a card store, but a card show. And then these guys from the regional have been putting on shows throughout Southern California. And now you got the front row guys doing shows in Pasadena, San Diego, in the Northwest. So we get a taste of shows, but as I've mentioned, the shows aren't like what you saw in Strongsville or what you see at the National or in Philadelphia or in Boston or in White Plains, Nashville. So as a collector, you kind of realize you're never going to find a show out here, with the Burbank show probably being the best show. You're never going to find a show out here that's similar to what you're going to find out east. And my friend Gannon made a comment to me several weeks ago when I was talking about card shows. He said, "Go east, young man." And I think that if you're gonna continue to look for great cards, yeah, you might have to go out east or stick to being online. I know people that buy exclusively online. I buy about 90% of my cards online. I like to go to a show and buy cards, and that's fun, but I don't always get that chance. So yeah, if you're on the West Coast, you're kind of on an island and you make the best of it. And I think I made the best of it last week at this show. When I went to the show, Mike, the sports history collector, had texted me. And he said, "Hey, Rick, how was the vintage there?" And I made reference to who was there, and it was the usual cast of characters, but they're wonderful people, and I love seeing them and visiting them. And that was my friend Mitch, and that was Levon LA Collection at this show. Now, if you add in a bigger show, you'll get George Diamond Yard Sports Cards and Eric and Gloria with their wonderful pre-war. When I told, and I know that I believe a lot of those people are going to be in San Diego in a few weeks, in late May actually. And Mike gave me a great line when I told him who was at this show. And at this show, it was just Mitch and it was Levon. And he said something along the lines of, "That's good enough for me. That's all I need." And I thought about it, and he was right. So I went to this show at the City of Industry, and there was a lot of sellers there. There was one gentleman, what was his name? He was selling some really nice, I think his name, no, I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm not even going to say it. He was selling some really nice vintage football cards. Very nice vintage football cards, ungraded and graded, but very nice stuff. But other than that, there was Mitch and Levon, and I got this, and luckily for some reason, I don't know if card shows do this on purpose, they always place those guys in the same aisle. So it's wonderful because then you spend a couple of hours looking at Mitch's table or Levon's table, and they always bring their great stuff. They bring in Mitch's case, he brings a lot of more than commons, but I'll start with the commons. He brings a lot of commons from the 50s and the 60s. He brings his pre-war, he brings his vintage graded cards, like I said, pre-war graded cards, and he's got some serious stuff. And it's wonderful to get to talk to him and just sit there and his wife Marta's there, and you just sit there for an hour or two looking at cards and just BS and having a good time. You go to Levon's table. Levon's got these wonderful T206 cards, these wonderful T205 cards. He's got some commons. He's got a lot of graded vintage cards from the 60s and 70s and 80s, all sports. And you realize I hung out with those two guys for a couple of hours. And then Mike had texted me about who was there when I told him, and he made the remark about, "God, that's all I need at a show." And I go, it hit me at that time. You know what? The show wasn't the best. The show wasn't as good as what people were seeing at Strongsville or the National. But you know what? I met up with a lot of people. I saw my friend Anthony. I saw my new friend Peter. Got to meet him. And it's always neat to talk to fellow collectors. I love meeting collectors when I'm at a Los Angeles card show, just because it's nice to see there are people who we have like-minded collections, or we vary differently. Or, Anthony was buying 1950 Bowman cards just like I was, and he's working on his Tiger team sets. And I was like, yeah, well, I was building Dodger team sets. So it's neat to run into these people at these card shows. And like I said, it might not be Strongsville, but I had a good time. And the biggest thing I accomplished was I finished my 1950 Bowman set. Yep, I finally finished it. I'm going to show you my 1950 Bowman set here shortly. Mitch had been saving the last card. I had bought a bunch of cards online after Burbank. I had bought maybe 10 to 20 cards online, and Mitch reached out to me because he knew the last card I needed. He said he had 3 copies of it. He was going to hold on to them, and I showed up. Finally found his table. I usually save the guys I know for last because those are the people I'm going to spend the most time with. And I ran into Mitch, and he immediately saw me and he goes, "Here are the 3 cards you want to look at." and I looked at all three. He gave me a deal along with another card that I'm going to show you probably in about a week, just because the card doesn't fit in the theme of today's show. But I bought a couple of cards from him, and all of a sudden, you realize I was at a card show for 2 or 3 hours. I met some nice people. I got to hang with some of my older friends. Got to look at some baseball cards, got to talk about baseball and baseball cards. It was a good day. What more do you want? What a perfect way to end my break, my 3-4 week from hiatus, my 3 or 4 week from YouTube. But when I went to the show, I realized I wanted to talk to you guys and talk to you about it, because you might be going through some of the same things or the same symptoms, and it's okay. It's okay to take a break. It's okay not to buy cards for a few weeks. It's okay to buy cards and just put them on your desk and not look at them for a while. But I'm out of that mode now. So I'm going to turn the camera around because I've been talking way too long. And we're going to look at some 1950 Bowman baseball cards. So let's talk about 1950 Bowman. On a personal note, just in regards to my collection, the 1950 Bowman set is the second oldest set in my collection, but it is the oldest set in my collection that's placed in binders. My oldest set is, as you know, is 1941 play ball. Those are all graded, and they are currently on a wall on a display case in my office. I am going to borrow an idea I learned from Rocket Rick J18 when he shows off his binders. His sets and binders is he actually takes the sheets out of the binders. It does make things easier, so I thought I would do that. So thanks, Rick. Rick is a very good inspiration when it comes to card collecting, because I think he has every card that I want. So I've got my notes out. We're taking a look here. You can see all the cards here in sheets. These are 12 pocket sheets. There are 252 cards in the set. With the first 72 cards, card numbers 1 through 72, they're short printed. There aren't as many, and they seem to be a little bit more valuable than the remainder of the set, card numbers 73 through 252. So unlike other sets where the high numbers are the ones in scarce, in this case, it's the lower numbers. The first series, 1 through 36, and the second series, 37 through 72. Those are short printed. Speaking of series, there are 7 series in this set. Card numbers 1 through 36, 37 through 72, 73 through 108, 109 to 144, 145 to 180, 181 to 215, and 216 to 252. There does exist 36 card uncut sheets representing an entire series in existence. And it helps validate this series breakdown. By the way, I am getting all this information from the PSA card website, so this isn't stuff that I made up here. But card numbers 181, when we get there, card numbers 181 through 252, they can be found with or without the copyright in the back. Like I said, I'll show that to you when we get there. So here are card numbers 1 through 12. As you see, I am missing 2 cards right there and right there. Those are card numbers 6 and number 11, which I'll show you in a moment. The Mel Parnell card up here, card number 1, is very hard to find in good shape. Card number 1 is just a hard one to get, period. So the Parnell can be expensive. The Dominic DiMaggio card also was difficult to find. A lot of cards on these pages weren't easy. The George Kell I finally found at South Bay Sports Cards out in Lomita. But these are card numbers 1 through 12. And then the 2 missing cards, let's move this over here. The 2 missing cards are card number 6. That's Bob Feller, one of my favorite cards. You guys have heard the story before. I think it was Don Field of Dreams who was on a show with baseball collector Mike. He showed off this card and I saw it and I go, I have to have it. I found it at the Long Beach show and pretty happy to pick it up. So that was Bob Feller, card number 6. And the other card that was on this page is another great card, the Scooter, Phil Rizzuto, card number 11. So that's Phil Rizzuto, great card to pick up. A lot of these cards I have picked up in the last year. This set has taken me roughly a year to complete. Here's card numbers 13 through 24. Ferris Fane, one always jumps out. Reminds me of my friend Terry, TJ Mack. Just a wonderful collector, wonderful collection. And highly recommend watching the video that he put out today, by the way. Who else is in here? I got this Pee Wee Reese I've had for a while. Probably not the best looking Pee Wee Reese. We got the Don Newcomb rookie. Luckily, Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays have not entered the scene yet. They'd show up a year from now in 1951. But Don Newcomb, Hank Bauer, and Al Rosen would probably be the bigger of the rookies in this collection, in this set. And I should add to you, 1950 Bowman, that was the last year Bowman had card collecting or card printing on their own, because the next year Topps would show up and the world would completely change. So I'm missing 2 cards here, and the first one missing, who's right here, is a graded card. That's going to be Warren Spahn, card number 19 and a PSA 5. And the second one is card number 22. That is going to be Jackie Robinson in an SGC2. This is the most I have ever paid for a baseball card, and it's paid off for me. I don't look at value, but when I look at the current price, it's worth a lot more than what I paid for it. So that's Jackie Robinson, and that is page 2. Now there are the Phillies and the Tigers have the most cards represented here. This is a set, and I bring this up because 1941 Play Ball cannot say this. This is a set where all 16 teams are represented. 41 Play Ball has no Chicago Cubs cards in it. That's another story for another time. But there are the most cards are Phillies Tigers with 19. The Reds and the Browns have the least amount of cards with 12. Here's card numbers 25 through 36. This Stanky was a pain in the butt to get. Right here, here's a guy that I've never heard of, who never gets talked about on any YouTube show, especially on Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. My friend in Savannah, Georgia, Alex, never discusses it. Neither does any of his crew. I do not get any text messages about this guy. But Eddie Waitkus is the last card I needed to finish this set. This was the card that my friend Mitch held on for me, and appreciative of him for that. Thank you, Mitch. But that card rounds out my set. I got Del Ennis here. This is becoming like a YouTube tribute show. Del Ennis reminds me of my friend George, Diamond Yard Sports Cards, because he talks about Del Ennis. I'm going to get this wrong, George, I think. Apologies if I'm wrong. I believe this was your dad's favorite player. I could be wrong there. What else do I have here? Ralph Kiner card. Ralph Kiner and Slaughter are here. These are two of the cards I chose not to get graded, just because I didn't want to start a collection of a set of all graded cards. So a lot of these Hall of Famers don't come graded, so there is one card missing here, and that is taken up by Mr. Robin Roberts, card number 32, which I bought at the Burbank show a few years ago. Good looking 2.5 card. All right, next set is card numbers 37 through 48. My first ever Luke Appling card right up here on the upper left. What else stands out? Bob Lemon, some Red Sox here, and got a Yankee card here. Is that Jerry Coleman? It is Jerry Coleman. I know him as the Padres broadcaster. That's Jerry Coleman, but we got a couple of holes here that need to be filled, and they will be filled by Larry Doby, card number 38, in a PSA 2. And a card I bought at Long Beach a couple of years ago from my friend Levon, That's going to be the Yogi Berra card in a PSA 4. So those are the two graded cards that'll go in that are here. Eventually what I might do is make photocopies of these and then cut them out and put the copies in their slots, just because I get to be a little OCD and I want to see everything complete. Let's see, so that's that page. The next set of cards here, we finally got a page filled with cards, ungraded cards. We got Carl Erskine, we got Ralph Branca, we got some Washington Senators in the cards. This is a set along this. Here's one set. The Braves aren't even in Milwaukee yet; they're in Boston. So I have cards from the Boston Braves, the Philadelphia Athletics. So love my history when it comes to cards. Okay, so we're at card number 61 through 72. Bobby Thompson, shot heard around the world. Kurt Simmons, one of my favorite cards. Hall of Famer Red Shandings. This is a good looking set. The details in these small cards, especially compared to 1949 and 1948 Bowman. Don't get me wrong, those are nice cards, but these are just a lot more colorful, a lot more detail involved with these cards. This is a really good looking set. Next up, card number 73 through 84. Duke Snider's in there. Bought that a long time ago, less than $50. But I got Duke Snider in there. I got a couple of holes here. I got 2 of them, I think. No, I got 3 of them. All right, so 3 holes here. The first one is taken up by Roy Campanella, card number 75. I think I bought this a long time ago. My Dodger cards I bought years ago, so they're now like, I spent like $40 or $50 for them. They're not that price now, but still good looking cards. This one was a recent pickup from a few months ago, and that's card number 79, Johnny Vandermeer. Reason I bought this was I saw it ungraded for $20, and I won it on eBay. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll go back and buy the graded card. Or the ungraded card. Not sure about that, but so there's Johnny Vandermeer, and then we had one more hole that needed to be filled, and that's card number 84, and that's Richie Ashburn in a 5.5. Another card I've had for a very long time. I don't even think I spent $50 on this card, but that's Richie Ashburn. So we are through card numbers 1 through 84. We're gonna move on, and we've got. Let's see if there's anything here that stands out. No, just a lot of good-looking cards. Lou Boudreau's here. This set, the 1950 Bowman set, is the first set that includes manager cards. Now, Boudreau at this point is a player manager card, but you got guys like Frankie Frisch and Leo DeRocher and Casey Stengel. They all have cards as managers in this collection, in this set. All right, card numbers 97 through 108. I know we're going to have a hole here. We got a couple of Yankees here. I think we got Vic Raschi, and we've got Billy Johnson and Bobby Brown in the middle, Dr. Bobby Brown. We got those guys going there, some Red Sox, but we got a hole up here for card number 98, and card number 98 is going to be Ted Williams, and I won that from Collector Investor Auctions. Ted Williams, I won that this year. I think I won that this year. It might have been late last year. But there's Ted Williams. So there are our cards 90 through 98. The next 12, I got Gil Hodges up here, Gene Hermansky. Some nice-looking Phillies cards, some nice-looking Cubs cards. Just some good cards in this collection. In this set, I should add. Okay, next group. I think that's early win. No, that's flat. That's Joe Gordon, excuse me. There's Joe Gordon. A lot of Indians down here. That's one thing. There's no player. This was a hard set just based on the back, and I'm going to flip this over in a moment. The backs are very hard to read. There's Johnny Mize. I'll flip this over. For me, it was very hard to read these. I had to get a magnifying glass. The numbers are down here. So, you know, it's card number 130 or card number 128. I could never read that. I had to get a magnifying glass. I had to actually buy a magnifying glass. I think, God, maybe someone like Cheese Mikey might have shown me a magnifying glass. And then Mitch had one day and loaned me his because I couldn't read the card numbers. So we have one card missing in this one, and that is going to be my last graded card because the rest are going to be ungraded. And that's going to be Allie Reynolds, the Chief. And I bought, and again, it only cost $20. So picked up that card. And then as we start moving along, you know, you'll see guys like, you'll see guys like Early Win, some more Yankees, Mike Garcia, some more Dodgers. That's Preacher Row right there. Some Philadelphia A's, Washington Senators, just cities that, franchises that have moved around since then. Oh, let's see. I think that's Hank Thompson. And like I say, since we have no names here, it's a precursor to the 53 Bowman. You have to look in the back for their names. And I don't know all these guys' names. But here you see a good set. Guys on the White Sox and on the Red Sox and on the St. Louis Browns. This set tends to put players from the same team in order. Got some more Dodgers up here. Danny Murtaugh, who would later become the manager, two-time world champion manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates right there. Danny Murtaugh. Let's see what else we got here. The Yankees are the ones that I should try to remember, but Eddie Lopat there. There's Eddie Lopat. And let's see, there's Casey Stengel in the upper left. Hank Bauer rookie card. Leo DeRocher as manager of the New York Giants. A couple of Dodger scrubs. This gentleman would go on to win the MVP that season, 1950. And that'll give me an opportunity to turn it over. Jim Constantine. But I wanted to point out, we're at that point, it's going to be hard to read these in the back. You've got copyrights here, 1950 Bowman Gum Inc. But then you look at someone like Leo DeRocher, he doesn't have a copyright. So if you're a master set builder, you could actually build the master set, which is, I believe, like an additional 30 or 40 cards, and they will have the copyright there. Or they won't have a copyright. You have to try to get both. There's Frankie Frisch. I think that's Bobby Shantz right there. Bobby Shantz. That card was hard to get. I'm glad I remembered that. Of the later cards in the 200s, Bobby Shantz was a pain in the butt to get. How I found that for under $30, I'll never know. We got some good shots here, some good horizontal shots as well. The Duke Snider was horizontal. But a lot of these cards have very detailed backgrounds, blue skies, some clouds, some trees. You got the infield. Is this the last page? I think this is, yeah. Here's my last page, and they waited to the very end to throw in 4 St. Louis Brown cards. So, but it's a great collection. It's a great set to have. 252 cards, all Bowman, 1950 Bowman. Arguably one of my favorite sets, but it's kind of like when you say, well, who's your favorite kid? And you say whatever kid you're currently playing with. So whatever cards I'm currently looking at are my favorites. But that's the 1952 Bowman set. If you stuck around this long, you guys, thanks so much for hanging out, and we'll talk to you next time.
It's a beautiful day for a ball game today. If you and I are out of dollars and cents,
Oh, honey, we can always share a little hole in the fence.
it's a beautiful day for the ladies. So throw all your dishes away. We're gonna cheer